Okay, so we should probably start the podcast, right?
Do we have a script or something?
Oh,
Uh,
I guess so.
Whoever edits this will have one hell of a job.
Biggest question for classical music. Is piano percussion or strings?
It's
Yeah, why
percussion
not both?
because
Yeah.
It's literally both.
Yeah, but you only make noise with the strings by hitting them.
It doesn't really sound like a string though. It sounds like a
'Cause
piano.
it's made out of strings.
And a piano
It's
doesn't.
made out of strings.
But a piano sounds so much different than all the other string instruments.
it's because you're not plucking the strings of the piano, you're hitting them with blunt
Yeah.
force trauma.
Blunt force trauma.
So
You're
that's why it's
using the-
percussion.
it is percussion.
But also, you're not the one hitting them. You're just pressing the keys.
Wait,
and
but what
then-
about the bowed ones?
Yeah, that's the same with drums. You're not the one hitting the drums, the drumsticks are.
No, but what about like those djembes and stuff? You hit those with your hands, and those are percussion.
You hit a bass with your hands, but it's still a string instrument.
No, but that's because you're plucking the strings.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's-
that's
that's like-
different.
But you can also slap a bass, which is
Well,
also
that's
plucking,
like that's
actually.
a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
Yeah, so
That's-
piano's percussion because you're not plucking the strings, you're hitting them.
Well,
Did you
in
see
that,
Pixel?
everything is a percussion. Every instrument is a percussion instrument if you just hit it.
Whoa.
To my cat being a percussion
You have to
instrument.
don't instrument violence.
Why are you hitting your cat?
Okay.
No.
You're promoting
Why?
instrument violence. This is not approved. Don't hit your cat.
Look,
Are we
what, guys?
assaulting innocent animals? What are we doing here?
Cats are a
How are we
stringed instrument because if you like pat them, the sound that resonates isn't from the hair.
I pat my cat.
What?
She starts purring. All of
I
a
hit my
sudden,
cat.
she's a percussion instrument?
Yeah,
No,
it's
look-
it's a percussion instrument because it's not from the hair. The sound isn't resonating from the hair.
Baby,
But you're not hitting
Ah.
your cats.
No,
you're
My
my
cat
like-
was hitting.
Actually, cats like being hit. Some, not all of them.
What?
My
Stop!
cat
Stop!
likes being
Stop!
hit on
Stop!
the head.
Stop! Stop! You can't. Please. Why?
cat.
No, genuinely. Also, I can hold my fist out.
You can
my
say
cat will
like
just
you
ram
can say
head first
can-
into my fist.
Oh my
you can
god.
totally say stuff like my cat likes being hit sometimes or something like that, but you can't say cats like being hit. You can't say it like generally like that.
Whoa!
I mean, they
Just-
do though.
What?
No, please don't.
No, I love
Uh,
my cat. She doesn't. I don't just like smack her.
Yeah, no, you're not smacking your cat though. You're like,
oh my god, this is so chaotic.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about Rachmaninoff.
That was my
Wait, what?
cat.
What are you doing to your cat?
Sounds like you were preparing to like play saxophone or something. Is organ
Right.
like a wind instrument?
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
It forces air, it uses
Like
these
an-
big pedals to force,
Yeah,
Stuff.
exactly.
Like a
and it
pipe
forces
organ.
the air through, and it whistles through the holes on the top.
Like a pipe organ. Yeah.
Yeah.
How, like, they're so
Hans-
similar, but, like,
Hans
they're-
Zimmer mentioned something about it in his documentary, where he was
And
like,
is an accordion also a wind instrument then?
"Yeah,
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
Wait, no, never mind. It's a free reed instrument. So yeah, because it has like a reed inside. I think.
So
Yeah.
accordions
I
are
think like an accordion is actually very similar to like an organ, but just like in a very very scaled down manner because it also has like all these kind of like reeds inside, and forces air through them and has different buttons to open them up. So I think it's actually quite similar construction in a totally different size and stuff. So yeah.
automaton."
Isn't an automaton just like an electrical thing?
I think
It's
so.
not. It's not even an
I
instrument.
think so, yeah.
Welcome to the Ling Ling Wannabes Podcast. Today we'll be talking about our favorite composers and perhaps some other topics if we get into those. We have Dez, Hannah Ling Ling, Malar, Necro, Panini, and of course, so yeah, enjoy listening to us yap for
My reasoning for Shasti is that
I listened to his string quartet number 8 and his jazz waltz number 2, which are mainstream, and I also listened to his number 9, which is less mainstream. First off, they're really good pieces. Second, in number 9, I could tell that, feel some human in that piece. The backstory behind Symphony Number 9 is he was being pressured by the Soviet Union and his friends were distancing himself from him, and he was in retaliation, kind of. He wrote that symphony, but the Soviets expected it to be this grand symphony. Shostakovich made it sound not so grand.
I think for Shostakovich, it's very interesting because some pieces he wrote very mainstream, and also violin he wrote, for example, very poppy for that time, right? None of this pressure and coloring you were talking about, but then on the other hand, he also wrote stuff like that. So I think this contrast is very very interesting, that he made both sides. He confirmed to the norm somewhat, if he had to, and then he also took some of his compositions to rise against the opposition, or not the opposition, against the suppression, kind of, I think.
I feel like in some of Shostakovich's pieces, you can almost hear his feelings and emotions towards his current position in that government, that setting. You can hear how almost in the way that his notes are combined, how he's feeling that anxiety, that pressure. He knows that if he screws up, he's not going to end very well. In one of his symphonies, you can almost hear that the notes are dissonant in themselves, in the way that they're arranged. If you put them all together, it forms a dissonant chord, and I feel like that really strikes with how Shosti approached in response to being asked to do this with that government.
In the pieces that Stalin wanted him to write, that he had to write for him, you can hear how they kind of sound. I mean, they sound great, but they almost sound cheesy for Shostakovich. You can hear, though, in his symphonies that he wrote without Stalin knowing, very painful sounding. But how he had to make very strategic moves on how to not make Stalin angry, but he did a good job at that. Mostly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I meant with the comment before.
Okay, yes, I want to say a few things. So first, this relates to how the Soviet Union was a dictatorship. If Shostakovich didn't write what they wanted, he would be killed. So that just shows that he wasn't in a very good environment. If he were in this modern world right now, he would definitely feel a lot better. In that, in his time, he needed support, and he didn't have any support because no one was willing to give him support because of the regime. They were scared of the regime.
Yes, and that's what's so interesting, because in some pieces they sound almost kind of cheesy, robotic, as maybe Hannah described, where it was just all about confirming to the norms, or to the what they were expecting from him. But then in others, like his symphonies, he really somehow managed to get this anxious and this dissonant feeling into there, which we can still which we can still pick up on today, without being too obvious with it, to make them unhappy, or stuff like that.
I was thinking along the lines of going off of the roboticness. Remember the BTSM song Da 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 Dom, and how the lyrics were stop telling me what to say, what to write, or the music for the brainless self-spite, sick of writing for silent increment, why, blah blah blah, all that. I feel like that also carry over into that as well, since and yeah, you're right, for somebody as talented as him, his stuff really did seem a lot robotic, like there was no soul to it. That's very unusual for a composer of that greatness.
I have some. So I could feel his feelings in the A string quartet. In his second movement, it sounded very hectic, and I could feel that despair, in that he had no friends at that time, and he was almost certainly going to be killed by the Soviet Union.
I feel uncultured not knowing why the Soviet Union
Me too.
wanted to use Shostakovich.
I mean,
If I'm gonna
it was
Speak.
likely because he didn't do what they wanted. They wanted him, like for example, they wanted him to write like a grand Ninth Symphony, and so he was almost like a traitor to the Soviet Union, and he would either be exiled or killed. But that is what was from what I heard.
So okay.
Caitlin
Yeah.
says that she likes Tchaikovsky because she's playing his concerto right now.
I've listened to part of the concerto. I like it.
Yeah. I like the first
really
movement.
Kosky violin concerto. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
I like the oboe part in Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake.
Who joined? Oh, hey, it's Murray.
Tchaikovsky, I think he's also a Russian composer, but very very different to Shostakovich, in that his pieces are like in general, I would say more radiating pretty much the opposite energy, like a very grandeur and very romantic energy, especially obviously his ballets and also opera, I guess, in comparison to this like anxious state that we had with Shostakovich. So yeah, it's just interesting that for someone it's Shostakovich is their favorite, and then someone else is Tchaikovsky. So just very very different, and that's really cool.
I saw somebody mention Holst.
Oh, Holst! I've listened to his entire Planets collection. Mine, I think Jupiter might be like one of my favorites, but that's just biased because it's so mainstream, and plus it's used in one of the TV shows I used to watch. And like Uranus has to be one of my favorites, though. It's like chaotic, and I like chaos.
Mars, Bringer of War.
I don't like
Mars. The name of that one. It was named. Necro. I don't know if you realize this, but Mars is the Roman version of Ares. And Ares was the Greek god of war, which is why he made the planet.
No, that's very right. Sorry, I mean in the sense that obviously a lot of the planets like Saturn and Jupiter and Venus and Mars are all based on Roman
They're all
gods,
named.
right?
They are named Roman. Yes, Jupiter is
Exactly.
Roman for Zeus, Mercury,
Yeah, for
Roman
sure.
for Hermes. all
There's
that,
three
so-
instruments.
Exactly. Like obviously, like the whole Roman or like most Roman pantheon, or the Roman gods were just adopted from the Greek gods and slightly changed. Had like some different attributes which maybe were more fitting to the Roman culture than the Greek one. But in general, they were just very very similar, and they just took a lot of their culture, obviously.
They were
Which
like,
is
we're better.
but
stuff.
yeah, sorry. Anyways, what that has to do with Holst also. What I thought first when thinking about the planets is like that it's like kind of like film music these days. Like it was like kind of the original starting off point for like film music, even though they weren't like movies, but it's just like from the style it was in just like my feeling. Maybe I should be able to reason that a bit better, but yeah, that's just the feeling I get.
The Planet Suite, the planets, that symphony, it does sound like something from a movie, right? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And actually, I'll try to stay out of the Star Wars stuff, but John Williams, the composer, he based a lot of his music off of Holst and the Planet Suite. For
Yeah,
instance, like
I think
in the
I
opening,
think a lot.
it
I think a
sounds
lot of
very.
film music. I think a lot of
There's a
film music
2-set
is
video
like.
about that.
Oh, yeah, I think that's where I learned it from, actually.
The fact that so many movie people like take classical music and then just like use it for their movie stuff, like, and just change it a little bit is like it's interesting, and then it kind of makes me mad at the same time because they never say like, oh yeah, this is basically this piece. I just added like reverb.
Reverb goes so crazy.
I know.
Yeah, my mom the other day, she was like, you gotta learn that one thing on the violin, and then you'll be just sound like a professional, right? I was like, what? She's like, like reverb or something. I was like, vibrato. She's like, yeah, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh,
Reverb can be added to anything. It's
I
just how
know.
you change the way that the sound comes out of your amp or speaker to make it sound like it's in a bigger space. You need to be in a big hall with a violin to get that reverb effect. Unless you're using reverbrato.
I just wanted to say something on the how film music just uses classical music themes with just adding reverb or something. Back in the day, there were also like but I think the difference was it was like also clearly communicated, like just variations on themes or like transcription on themes from other composers, right? Obviously, like let's say Rachmaninoff, for example, or others added a little bit extra to fit the instrument they were doing a variation for or like transcription for. But I think it was always around. But maybe it's just like a difference in like also like adding something maybe, and also like about crediting correctly.
I feel like nowadays, back then, music was an art. Like, it was an art. You would study it, the way that a doctor would study medicine and get really good and hone their skills. That's what used to do.
Yeah.
But now I feel with all of this digital stuff and YouTube and all that, the impact of music has changed from something that makes you feel something to just something that's in the background.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Also, Kaylin says that she's surprised how much the Star Wars theme was like very similar to Korngold's King Ro.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, I haven't heard it actually, but
I've heard Star Wars theme, not the other theme.
What I was kind of curious to get your opinion about is like what's the like actual difference between back then when composers like made variations on themes of composers of other instruments, for example, like Rachmaninoff making a variation on a theme by Paganini or something, right? Or Rhapsody on a theme by Paganini. Like obviously, also they took the themes of and the melodies of others, but they just added something on top. Is it maybe that like it's just like a lot of value also in what they added, or is it like that they credited but more like nowadays they don't even like credit who it was that actually composed the theme that the music is based on. What do you people think is like the difference between how they did it back then and nowadays, and why it's maybe less respect for something nowadays?
I agree with that. I don't know. I feel like there's that saying that there's no original idea, and I do agree with that. And I think that so long as there's somebody else making something, somebody will get inspired by that and make their own version of it, whether or not they know they're making it or not. I think people are, if you see something, then maybe if you're an artist or something, you'll subconsciously use what you saw that influences your art. No, it's my idea on
It's
it.
true. Oh, Necro, what were you going to say?
I have a few things to say. So first off, that thing you said when you said that music now feels like it's just in the background. Corporate music. That music you hear in those like freaking I don't know those corporate advertisements.
Verizon.
Is
You mean
the
like jingles?
embodiment of that is the embodiment of in the background music. Like music doesn't have any soul anymore. That's why I listen to classical and not like pop or anything.
Yeah,
I
that's
kind
how
of agree with that though.
I don't
Like,
find anything wrong. Sorry, someone's trying to speak. Be quiet.
like I don't listen to really anything other than classical, and I listen to like worship music and stuff. But it's like the two set music videos were kind of really good at explaining that too, how it's like just same four chords and stuff.
You must be a tuba because you keep playing only 2 bars.
Because
1564 1564
I find pop music quite
So the first
repetitive.
MV Unbox is like there are some of the clues that kind of like they sing pop music for real.
I have nothing against pop music. Like it has its place. And to be honest, if I just need something in the background for in the car ride or something, like fills in the gap. But it's less original than it is usually. I feel. I don't know. There's less emotion.
Yeah, it's more like
something to add.
yeah, it's like they just a lot of times they just want to make money too, so they just try to like make more songs and stuff to make more money.
Who here does have like something against pop music?
Me.
What do you? What's that?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Just left.
I think I just want to add one thing, which is that obviously back in like nowadays there are different types of music, different genres of music, and it's not just pop music that exists. And I assume that I'm not really that knowledgeable in many other fields of music or any at all really. But what I'm trying to say is I don't believe that it's impossible to find something original these days. It's just maybe not in the pop music. But if you look back then, pop music was back in like a classical romantic era, like maybe not romantic era that much, but like back then it was also sometimes very similar themes. If you like look at like I don't want to like say that anything is bad or anything, but like I really don't. I don't mean it, but like waltzes, for example, were very popular because they had a very predictable tempo and a very predictable beat, kind of, right? So was also always this like separation between different types of music, even within back then the classical music that existed.
Waltzes are my absolute favorite.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
like
true
how
about it.
waltzes.
Now it's like having like original ideas in your own is absolutely impossible, especially kind of like composing these days. Like for my case, composing actually.
but anyway, as I was saying, waltzes are my absolute favorite. Like outside of just like music and stuff, waltzes are pretty much the only classical music I listen to just for fun. I mean, I don't know if that's a bad thing or not.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. All I'm trying to say is that also it's obviously you can't say that all the waltzes fall under this umbrella that I'm trying to put up here or anything. But what I'm trying to say is that just as now as back then, there were just melodically and rhythmically simpler pieces, which were maybe in general maybe more like waltzes, which with like a clear melody and like maybe not that much like counter voices or counterpoints or stuff like that, right? Which there is nothing wrong with listening to this, and I listen to waltzes too. I don't think there's like anything wrong. All I'm trying to say is back then there was also this kind of like pop music thing where it's just like easier to catch on to a very memorable and very like kind of repeatable melody and where you can like dance to kind of thing. So and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm just trying to say that back then, just as now, there was like pop music, but maybe there's still like a big difference in your mind, and I would be interested in finding out about that. What you think like the difference is maybe between like how waltzes were back then and maybe how they are today.
I actually had the honor of playing orchestra for a show. It was a good show and all that, but moving on from that, there was a part in the show where there was a waltz written for the two main characters, and it was interesting because each of these characters they had their own themes, and in this waltz, the way that the themes came together, it was rhythmic enough that the audience could they could listen. They won't have to focus on the background necessarily because it's just 1 2 3 1 2 3 with offbeats, but then they could focus their attention more on the melody of the two coming together into harmony. And I find that to be great about waltzes because there's always something familiar about them, yet you can play within those spaces and give it its own feeling in life. Like you can write a happy waltz, a sad waltz, it doesn't really matter. And you can just always do something with that, that's one of my favorite parts about waltzes, is that they might sound the same at surface level, but the more you dig deep into them, they are most certainly not the same.
My favorite waltzes
Yes.
are French ones. I just want to put that out there. I think French ones are like really unique, and you can just hear that it's French. I think the melodies in French music, especially waltzes, are a lot different to the rest of the world. I don't know, I just find them pretty cool.
Yeah, what is like what I really like is that the thing is like the melody you can they can there's a lot of space to like form that and because like just like the rhythm, which is important because obviously a waltz is a dancing music, right? So you need a pretty consistent rhythm, which gives you this like security and this like familiarity, I think. And I think, yeah, I think that's maybe why, because of the rhythmically rhythmicality, sorry, of waltzes, which is a necessity because they are meant for being danced to, right? So yeah, I think that's maybe why.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Are there any other pieces that sort of follow a preset that you can then rearrange and sort of play around with to make it like? Is there anything like that? Like,
Yeah, and if I'm playing devil's advocate now, it's like I don't think it's the same, but like let's just say okay, pop music also follows like these chord progressions, which are always the same, but maybe there's like some other elements where they can express themselves. And I don't know, because I have no idea about pop music, unfortunately. I actually have no idea. But maybe like what's the difference? Is it like because it's like so much more commercialized, but on the other hand, back then also like a lot of like these waltzes were commissioned by kings for their like banquets or something. So it wasn't composed either out of just out of like artistic expression, right? So yeah, so like maybe it's like the pop nowadays uh which also follows like a similar similarity among each other, like waltzes maybe do. Uh, is it just like that? It's way more similar than the waltzes are, or is it that it's just way yeah, like what's wrong with like pop music these days, which wasn't that with waltzes back then, maybe?
It's like I feel like the difference between like pop music and there are some parts because like I already see some of the examples of pop music, but they are such like repetitive. There's a phrase there like pre-verse or verse or chorus, but they're always like repetitive and not kind of have a little bit of variations compared to like classical music or whatsoever. So kind of like the advantages is actually pop music the advantage is kind of like it's really easy to kind of remember the melody and the lyrics and all stuff, but the disadvantage is like it's quite boring and that's something just for me that's my take for that.
Okay, now talking about pop music brings up an interesting question, which is what is pop music? Because if you think back in like the 1700s, the composers of that time were pop music, and so it's I think it's not necessarily the genre. I think it's mostly the
Are we turning
Problem
into a
is
pop
that
music hatist group? Because I like some pop music, and I feel very out of place here.
I don't think we necessarily hate pop music. We're just trying to find out what like differentiates the repetitiveness that some people feel of pop music nowadays from how similar maybe waltzes were back in the day. And the point that Rex brought up, I think, with how back in the day there was also pop music, right? It's exactly the point. Like maybe like some strange or not like not strange but like maybe not that popular uh, like partitas, or I don't know, like some like pieces which are maybe mostly for technical purposes, or maybe with very interesting or like very unique melodic and rhythmical ideas, in comparison to like a waltz, which is like very comfortable. Maybe I'm running around in circles here a bit, but back then obviously there was also a difference between what was popular back then and not. And maybe what like is going through is that all the pop music from back then till now, or not all the pop music, but like just in general, there's a theme that it seems to be a bit more easy rhythmically, and a bit more like maybe not as complex, to be easier to remember and easier to share with more people without taking up like too much explanation and time, etc. And that's why I think it's popular, because it is more simple. It just is easier for more people uh, to find something they like, I guess.
All right. Uh, okay. So I'm kind of like late here, but I remember when someone said that like what was it like how music is a bit repetitive, and I would say that like all music has their own forms of these little cliches and all these little classical composers were in love with like diminished chords, and they were in love with what was it called? Yeah, augmented sixth chords. So I'm kind of confused when people say that pop is repetitive when classical has their own sort of cliches. And also, pop is less about theory and it's more about music production because we're in the 21st century and music technology is going crazy nowadays. So that's my take on it.
I completely agree. But one thing that's different about pop is definitely like the lyrics. Because I guess classical also have vocals, but it's not something you could just replicate just in your head, if you know what I mean. Like you're walking around and then you're just replicating the vocals in classical. That'll be really funny. But I guess pop also has like that lyric sort of art to it. I listen I listen a lot less to white music, I'm gonna be honest. I listen to mainly like Asian stuff, so like K-pop and J-pop, like Cantopop. So I can't really elaborate on the lyrics thing because I half the time I have no idea what they're saying. But uh just it's less of expressing emotions and more producing music nowadays. Like producing
Panini said with how it's more it's less about expressing emotion, it's more about production. So it's like more about like showing like technical grandeur, I guess. And obviously there were like pieces which are also geared along a similar. What I wanted to say is obviously so Panini said that nowadays it's not that much about like expressing emotions and more about like technical skill, which back then obviously also existed. Like let's say, like just virtuosic music, like Paganini Caprice or something, which is also maybe less geared to expressing deep emotions and more about showing technical ability and yeah. I think so. So is that what you're trying to say, Panini? That it's more
like
geared towards?
saying more generally, I'm not speaking for every single piece in the industry. Because, you know, you do have a lot of sorry, still say why am I saying pieces? You still do have a lot of songs that,
Hmm.
you know, are good and are worth listening. I feel like I don't hate pop music. I just want to put it out there. I just think I
Yeah,
just
no,
think
that's totally
there are
totally cool.
songs
Yeah.
there are songs that I really like what they're trying to express. Yeah, there are songs that I like what they're trying to express, and I do listen to pop music a lot more than classical music when I'm
Mhm.
just in my free time. I'm not saying that it's
Yeah,
bad. I'm just saying, yeah,
and obviously
it's
there's obviously nothing wrong with that. Everybody is like obviously music isn't just to be like um whatever like there's a good or bad, it's just what works for you, and as long as it like doesn't hurt anyone, that uh that this music gets like any recognition or something, it's fine, whatever you like, and all power to you, whoever listens to whatever, obviously. So you don't have to I don't think anybody ever has to like excuse their taste in music.
I mean, okay, if we're like circling back kind of like to the composers thing. What?
True, yeah, we got off to a little tangent. We should go back to composers, right?
Okay, my favorite composer is Bach because, well, for one, he was Christian, and his compositions were really like they weren't just like they weren't simple. They're very like complex, and I like how, because on a lot of compositions, the one hand on the piano like plays, melody and like everything like that, and then it's just chords to back it up. But then Bach's music has like two different voices that are both playing. It's almost like a duet, but it's not a duet.
It's just a fugue, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Pixel Maker says, I feel like music is relative. People interpret music in their own way, depending on their own life experience. Each composer brings something new to the table. so to speak.
Oh yeah, that's interesting actually. That makes sense because it's like based on your own
Yeah.
life experience kind of determines who your favorite composer is gonna be.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna see something the same. Like we all have different views and opinions on stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah, on Bach, I wanted to say something. What I really like about Bach is how how it's able to like express in a very straightforward manner. Interesting how you can layer so many different voices and still make it so he's a very he's a true master of like harmonies and how to combine voices and stuff, and that's just yeah. And I think those two things are what I really appreciate from Bach. It's just a very honest and straightforward and but still like very deep uh, um, transmission of specific emotions for me.
If we want to go back to the original question, I think one of my favorite composers, well, it changes like all the time, but right now it's probably Mahler. Like, especially his symphonies. I really don't listen to anything of his besides his symphonies, which might be kind of weird, but I think like every single one of them is just so good.
I need to listen to Mahler symphonies. I haven't.
You do.
What's your favorite Mahler symphony? Like Mahler 9?
That's Caitlin's. I like 1. I also like 5 and 2.
The only thing I know about Mahler is that he used a hammer in one of his symphonies. I think it was like Symphony Number 4.
Yes, that's true. I don't remember which
Is
one. I think it was 1 as well. I think that's
that the
Mahler
one
1.
that music fail happened where it, like he hit the hammer on the drum and it like flew back and like hit someone?
I like the only part of Mahler I've heard is a trumpet solo.
Oh, that's in Symphony 5. That one's very good.
When I listen to Mahler, I like always feel like I can like see like a picture being drawn before me, uh, because it's like just difficult to describe. Yeah, it's not like that. It's just like totally reenacting like an actual scene or anything, but it's just like that the complexities and the specific just create always manage to create some sort of image in my head.
Anyone else
We can
love
argue
another
about
favorite?
pop music again.
One of my favorites are like Dvorak.
Oh yeah, Dvorak's good.
Yeah.
I feel like Dvorak's almost like kind of underrated because I hadn't like I don't know, it's not very mainstream. You don't hear very many pieces by Dvorak. Until I started like I was playing in string orchestra Dvorak's Serenade for Strings, and I really liked it, so I kept looking. I was looking up like some more by Dvorak, and so yeah.
Oh, Serenade for Strings. I used to listen to that when I did my homework.
That's
That's what
funny.
I was doing. I was like doing math and listening to that.
Yeah, like mostly what he's known for is New World Symphony and also Cello Concerto to an extent.
And
But
like oh
he
yeah,
has a
and like
lot of other good pieces that are just
I
slept on.
think
Right.
a lot of people only know New World Symphony for its association with Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I knew it because Two Set said so.
Specifically the English horn solo.
The what's it called? That one it's like called America, right? That one.
Oh
like,
yeah,
quartet?
the
Oh,
string quartet
that
number
was
12.
Every time I heard it, I didn't even know it was called America at first, because I just heard it in like background music of Two Set videos. I was like, that sounds Asian, and then I read the title. I was like, oh, whoops.
Dvorak wrote a piano concerto. I I didn't even know that. So
you sent gifts in this freaking chat.
I know his violin concerto, which is like no one plays it, but it sounds really cool. And I'm guessing the same is true for his piano concerto.
Did we talk about Rachmaninoff yet?
At the very beginning a little bit, yeah.
I think we just touched upon it, but not really.
Want to continue that discussion?
Sure.
I like his number 2 which was also used but in another song called All by Myself. Classical songs sometimes get sampled in pop songs. Yeah, like I think Blackpink sampled La Campanella in one of their songs, and then whenever people started playing it, Blackpink fans were just like, "Oh, you copied from us," and I thought it was really funny because they didn't even know where the original came from.
Yeah,
That's
that
so
makes me
like
kind of
infuriating.
like I heard the song playing at like some place I was at just in the speakers, and I was getting so mad. I was telling my friend she knows nothing about classical music. I was like you hear this song? They stole it.
But I feel like now we're going back to the discussion we just had like half an hour ago, where I said like what's or not I said, but we discussed like what's the difference between nowadays them sampling classical music and back then when they were like doing maybe um a rhapsody on a theme by Paganini or something else. Like back then obviously it was also a thing that composers were sampling music from other composers.
Hey, at least they said Rhapsody on a Theme by Paganini instead of just not crediting the original creators.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's like
exactly that's what I tried to ask before, and I think it's good that we're talking about this again, because I'm not sure how deep we managed to get into that. But like, what's the difference between them back then using the melodies of other composers, in comparison to how they are trying to use it nowadays?
yeah, like back then it was like they're doing it to, and it's viewed as like a very honorable thing to like they're honoring the other composer by taking part of their music and using it for their composition. And nowadays it's like they're not crediting them at all, so it's more like they're stealing than like saying how amazing their composition was, that they want to make something based off of it.
Maybe also because like nowadays a lot of like classical music is in Creative Commons, so it doesn't really belong to anyone per se, right? So they don't really have to credit anyone either because it's just public domain. But still, I think
It's still better to edit the original creators even if they are dead because it's going to introduce them to a new realm of music.
absolutely, I absolutely agree. I'm just trying to say that that's maybe the reason why they don't credit them because like they don't have to because it's not under copyright anymore.
But then it's like, I mean, that's kind of mean. But yeah, that's probably is why they're doing it, because they don't really have to. But back then, whenever composers they made their compositions based off another composers, I'm pretty sure they would probably like credit them either way if they had to or not.
Yeah, that's true, and I don't think maybe they had to back then. I don't know how copyright law was back then necessarily. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that like they would just do it if they had to or anything. These days, I'm not trying to say that. Sorry if it like came across that way. What I was trying to say is, if it is in the public domain, it's usually I don't know. Maybe they just like disattach the melodies from the composers or something because they just think it's like so iconic and everybody knows it from everywhere, kind of thing, right? And then they just like say, okay, we don't have to, so we just like forget and we don't really research or try that hard because we just know this like very recognizable and famous melody. And yeah, I'm not sure if that is actually the case because I have a very limited um, things are limited. I've seen a very limited number of songs that did that, but I just have like kind of the feeling, which is maybe wrong, that they instead of like expanding upon the theme, they are more taking something away these days. In comparison, right? So like when back then they were like making a variation on a theme of another composer, they were more like adding some extra things which the instruments they were making the variation for, maybe expanded upon. A good example is like maybe Rachmaninoff that added things which could just be done on the piano, which maybe wouldn't be as easy be done on the violin. And he was more adding stuff as well, right? Whereas nowadays it seems like sometimes when they use classical music, they just use specific parts which are very which could be classified as repetitive, I guess, sometimes. But as I said, I could very well be wrong because I'm not that don't have that much music I know about these days anyways. So yeah, I maybe just a bit uneducated in that way, but that's just maybe another thing I kind of thought about. But maybe some of you have more experience and can share what they've seen.
Nah, I kind of like not really much educated into pop music, but at least I can provide you an example for the point you make. So, maybe you guys have known like Shut Down by Blackpink, and also like Tuesday also make a reaction to the MV and the musical stuff. So it's like the background of Shut Down by Blackpink is recognizable. Like the piece is like La Campanella by Paganini, but the fact that they just use like one or two bars and then just repetitive the same bar like just for the background of it. So I think that's also an example of what Milo is trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually a good example because we also have a classical variation on that, being the La Campanella transcription of, or like variation that Liszt made, right? Like Liszt added more, in my opinion, what the piano gave as an instrument, whereas Blackpink maybe subtracted a bit more from the original.
Actually, yeah. Let's take like Paganini's original theme or something, but let's La Campanella. As far as I can see, like he has two versions. His early version is like he take one theme of Paganini, La Campanella, and then on some part he kind of like use some of the theme of his caprices. I don't know much, but the one what we well known today, yeah, he used some of the variations to that, more harmonics, more something, yeah.
List, it was kind of his take on La Campanella and how he liked it and how he wanted to how he wanted to add more to the certain parts of it that he really liked, and then like the shutdown is just like the same thing and then added with like their four chords. And it's kind of cool to see though how like it just shows how classical music, like even the pop musicians are like relying on it because they're not just like, oh, let's make a pop music like video based off of this because that would be cool, because they're not crediting him. They're like literally kind of using it and stealing it because I guess, I don't know, they can't make it themselves. Okay, I don't know if that's really true, but
I
like
think
it's just
and
kind
oh,
of I see it.
sorry for interrupting you there. I just thought of another good example where like I don't think that has a modern music equivalent, but like Love Sorrow, right? Which is I think originally by Fritz Kreisler, which was I think very much expanded by Rachmaninoff, and just a lot of value, or like a lot of things were added, in my opinion, which really gave some extra specialness to the piece. So that's just like another example on like when back then they were copying in like or like being inspired by or using melodies and stuff from others.
Yeah, like classical music, they're more, yeah, like what you're saying, like they're more inspired by the other composer's music and want to make their like they want to make something based off of it. But then to me, it just kind of seems like the pop music, it's just kind of more stealing it, because I don't really know if Blackpink ever really mentioned much that it was based off of La Campanella. Like, oh, cool, La Campanella sounds so good, let's make something based off of it. More just like, we can use this.
We should start a new topic of what to talk about.
Yeah, I want to speak before we
Okay.
clear up that whole conversation.
Oh yeah.
I like to say though that like this is a sad case of like a lot of the music out there not being credited by the original artist. Like sampling has been around for like the mid 50s, somewhere around like the mid 20th century when you have people like John Lennon or Scott. And hip hop kind of does the same thing where they sample a lot of songs, especially within like the jazz range, but then they just don't like credit the artist. So I think it's kind of sad that that's kind of been the norm recently. So that's that's my take on it.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Alright.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You
Thanks
will
for
be
Goodbye.
joining.
missed.
Oh man. Okay, we lost a lot of people. Wait. Does anyone have a favorite composer that hasn't already been said?
Actually, mine, yes. I'm fall in love with Chopin. Actually, it's like his music is kind of like pretty melodic. I'm out of word about describing his music, but I mean, every time when I listen to his pieces, I mean, most of his pieces, he always kind of like melts in my heart and kind of like giving me the goosebumps.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like something I noticed about Chopin is that like for classical music, his pieces sound very like melodic and don't have a lot of how some pieces are like so virtuosic that you can't really hear the melody and it's just a bunch of like hard techniques and stuff. But then Chopin's music is hard, but also sounds like really, really just
Yeah, comparing Chopin to Liszt. Well, Liszt is a little bit like exaggerated and virtuosic with his skills, and some people kind of love him with Listomania, but Chopin is something romantic but simple at the same time.
we could talk about Mozart and Beethoven, even though no one in here is their
Oh.
favorite composer, but some people
I
just
think
for the
Mozart is kind of overrated, and so is Beethoven.
I feel like Mozart is a bit overrated. Well, kind of, just because I don't like Mozart's pieces that much, because they're just super happy and like that's it, kind of.
I actually don't think that most of the Mozart pieces are super happy. So like for example, I take Piano Sonata number 8 actually, and I read his biography that says that maybe I remember that when he composed this, his mother kind of like passed away, but his father Leopold kind of like blamed him for lack of care for his mother. So maybe this sonata is somehow reflect his
That's
kind
so
of like
depressing.
yeah, the depressive, yeah. It's not like
Yeah.
super happy as it is.
And then Mozart's like Lacrimosa and like his whole I don't know how to say it. Never mind. I'm not gonna try to say it. Requiem. I don't know. Whatever. But like yeah, all those sound like sad, but then the majority of Mozart's stuff sounds happy. Like my perspective of Mozart kind of follows like the Two Set music video, kind of how they portrayed him is kind of how I view him. I like the Beethoven one though, just because of how, or I just like Beethoven in general, just because of how he was like very like depressed for a long time, but then towards like the end of his life he wasn't.
I kind of agree with what you said about Mozart being like just all his music is so happy all the time and kind of follows the same feel. But Beethoven, I think he expresses a lot of different and more darker emotions, which is like more interesting.
Mozart gets hated on for being happy.
Yes, but happiness is not acceptable.
Yeah, classical music, we like the depressed composers. No,
Everyone's
it's
depressed. That's why we love them.
no, it's just that like since his pieces sound so happy, it just like I don't know, like sometimes I just want to listen to like calm stuff or like the back in the background like while I'm doing stuff. I don't know, it's like so happy that it like it's more energy than that what I'm feeling in the moment that it's like annoying.
Yeah,
But
you're
it's
like,
not
calm
really
down.
yeah, I'm like calm down Mozart. But no, his pieces do sound really good. Actually, like it's a really that really popular ones, like the Marriage of Figaro or whatever. But I like that one.
Yeah, imagine like his kind of like musical jokes or like Mickey Mouse.
For me, it's like I don't really listen to Mozart or Beethoven that much, but I can kind of acknowledge how much of a genius they were for like writing what they did. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Mozart dropped a new piece a few months
Oh, I
ago.
like that one.
Oh, I remember that.
I actually like that piece. Some people like was just saying it kind of sounds simple for Mozart, which it does, but I still like it.
Wasn't during like his early years, like being young.
So
Yeah, so no wonder why.
You guys
Right.
remember when Bach, some people found Bach's like double violin concerto that was in E minor, and Two Step Violin played it, like a part of it, in a video, like a year ago. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
When did they find it?
Like a year ago. I remember
Oh.
there's a video. The video is still up. Like they put it back up. I can try and find it.
That's crazy though. That I thought that I didn't know that like how recent that was. I thought it was just some underrated piece that Two Set had like come across, and they're like, oh, let's play this, but I didn't realize it was actually like they found it.
Yeah, that's been happening quite a lot.
Do we know that like I heard like people saying that they don't think it's actually Chopin's piece or actually
Oh.
Mozart's?
I've never seen any like other recordings of it, and I don't know. I can't find any online manuscripts, which is a shame. But
So, guys, what do you think about Chopin new piece?
I haven't. I don't think I've listened to it.
I listened to it like a couple times. I wasn't too into it.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's still it's okay. I don't know if any of you saw the chat, but has anyone mentioned Ralph Vaughan Williams?
No,
Or has anyone heard his like pieces before?
I have not.
Okay, so a few months ago I found his Fantasia on Greensleeves, and I thought it was really like folklore-y and like really unique, and I liked it a lot.
Wait, is he the person who wrote that?
I don't think he wrote the original theme, but he wrote
Oh.
Fantasia on Greensleeves is what I meant.
No, I've played that. I played that piece before. I
Oh,
just
nice.
didn't know it was written by him. Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
never really heard of him.
I think Boulez is a good composer.
Who?
How do you spell that?
Bro, I kind of expected it to be like that.
How do you spell
Who
that?
the flip is that, bruh?
Bro, it's okay. Okay, listen to me. Okay, so it's a French composer, right?
Wait, how do you spell his name?
Yeah.
French?
I just heard roulette.
Yeah.
Boulez.
Oh, easy.
Oh.
Can you spell that in
Yeah.
chat?
Never heard of bro.
Boulez. I
I
haven't
heard
heard of.
roulette.
I bet nobody here except for Caspuliv has heard of Boulez.
I'll get my brother.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people here know a lot of like contemporary or avant-garde
Dear
composers.
God.
The only French composer I listen to is just Debussy.
Oh,
That's so
Debussy is
fair,
awesome
though.
though.
Is there any more French composers out there?
We should all listen to Rimsky-Korsakov's Symphony No. 2.
You guys do know who John Cage is, right?
Yeah, John Cage
Yeah.
433.
Okay, yeah. But I really do not like how 433 is like getting memed.
It's just a
No,
Really?
It's like the equivalent. It's like the equivalent to everywhere at the end of time. People miss out on the point.
Oh, yeah. Like it kind of has
Well,
like a
like-
deeper meaning, but like everyone just memes about it because it's funny.
But like, it's just the performer's not supposed to be playing, but the audience makes noise. So technically, this entire podcast is more like 4 hours and 33 minutes of John Cage. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Bye.
Smash that like
Yeah,
button. You know the vibes.
Press
Oh my god.
the like button and then also the subscribe button.